So just who was Jules Boucherit? Well, to give you a sense of the kind of students he guided, they included Ivry Gitlis, Christian Ferras, Davy Early, Jeanette Neveu, and Henry Timianka. They knew him to be very authoritarian, but at the same time patient, kind, and dedicated. Early wrote that Boucherit was a dictator. You did what he demanded without questioning. But this didn't stop him from saving my life. Okay, but what does he mean by saving his life? Well, what he was referring to was that during the German occupation of France, Boucherit hid 5 of his Jewish students at a villa owned by Magda Tagliaferro, called La Chansonnière, outside Fontainebleau. Because of this, these 5 students, Davy Early, Ivry Gitlis, Charles Sorolnik, Denise Soriano, and Michel Schwalbe, were not taken. This certainly gives us an idea of Boucherit's character, but that makes me wonder how it all started for him. Well, he was born in 1877 in Morlaix, Brittany, but his entry into the class of Jules Garcin at the Conservatoire de Paris at the age of 13 marks the beginning of his violinistic journey. In 1892, Boucherit receives a Premier Prix at the Conservatoire de Paris, and 2 years later became violon solo of l'Orchestre Cologne. Continuing his pursuit of a performing career, he later formed a violin-piano duo with Magda Tagliaferro, who owned the villa, La Chansonnière. She was among Corto's early students in his advanced women's piano class, which back then was still separated by gender at the Conservatoire. Boucherit was appointed professor of violin at the Conservatoire de Paris in 1920, at the instigation of its director, Gabriel Fauré. But was Boucherit close to Fauré? Well, it appears they shared a mutual connection in Ronaldo Hahn. You see, Boucherit also taught at the École Normale, where he and Hahn were colleagues. As well, Hahn and Fauré sought the same kinds of heuristic patronage through their performances for the social elite. So all of this meant Fauré, Hahn, and Boucherit moved in overlapping circles. So with these appointments in hand, his students at the Conservatoire de Paris and the École Normale de Musique become the centers of his professional life. He also teaches at the Conservatoire Américain de Fontainebleau, the summer institution that had been founded in 1921 by Francis Casatsu, and through it he reached an international mix of students. But what was it like to actually study with Boucherit? Well, Timianka writes that Boucherit drove him so relentlessly through those loathsome exercises that he felt someone like Samson in the treadmill. But looking back, he ends up thanking Boucherit for what he calls the precious lesson of a lifetime, adding that without a certain amount of persistent drudgery, it's impossible to acquire the technical equipment without which, in the long run, all talent and creative imagination remain unavailing. Approximately 25 years later, Boucherit retired from the Conservatoire de Paris, but continued teaching at the École Normale and privately. He passed away in April 1962, but 31 years later, he is posthumously named Regius Among the Nations by Yad Vashem. This is an official title awarded by the State of Israel to non-Jews who risked their lives to save Jews during the Holocaust. In Jerusalem, December 1994, his wife Denise Soriano Boucherit, who was herself one of the students he had hidden at La Chansonnerie, received the medal in his name.